I'm going to bring us back into session. It's 7:01, and we had a select board meeting actually at the wastewater treatment facility plant at 5:30 to do a tour of it and see how things work. We are back now, and we are, the next item on the agenda is the minutes from July, actually it's not July 20th, it's July 16th. Is there a motion?
So I'd move to approve the minutes of July 16th, 2024 with corrections.
Is there a second?
Second.
Page 1. Page 2.
So there is a error in number 12, the community projects fund allocations. It says no action taken, but actually there was a motion made by me, I think seconded by Greta, I believe, to approve the 3 items that received the 4 votes from the select board on our ranking of them. And they were listed as the TIF study, the village community park pavilion, and the various project strategic plans for the police and fire department.
Mine's going to seem super small in comparison to that, but on number 6, there should just be a space between A and Green Mountain Cyclocross.
Yes, I saw that too.
Page 3. Hearing no further corrections and subject to the changes, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Next, public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody in the public, either in person or participating remotely, to make a comment to the select board. It could be on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not. If it is on the agenda, you might want to wait, but you don't have to. Is there anybody who wishes to make a public comment? Okay, Eric, is there anybody online?
Check. Nope, no one online for public comment.
Okay. Next on the agenda, liquor license application, Home 2 Suites. Eric?
Let's see, I think the general manager, Billy, is going to join us. Is Billy here? Might just not be, I think they were going to join online, so I'm just,
Okay. And
we
yeah,
can come, probably be on in a minute or 2.
yeah, let's wait. We're actually 2 minutes ahead of schedule, so it's a record. So we can go to temporary events permit, Red Barn Gardens.
Yep, someone from Red Barn here. Yeah. Come on.
If you can come on up and identify yourself. That sounds terrible. Yeah. If you can just tell us your name.
Sure, yeah, I'm Billy Weaver.
Hi, Billy.
Forgive me if I'm a little should I speak into this?
No.
Okay. No. Forgive me if I'm a little clunky. I'm not the best at public speaking,
That's
but
no problem.
But yeah, I have the application here, and yeah. Do you want me to make a comment on the event, or do you just...
Yeah, you can just general description.
Yeah, so on September 28th, that's the last Saturday of September, we're having an event at Red Barn Gardens, which is just down the road. And it's going to be a music and arts festival. A lot of Chittenden County musicians and artists will be performing during the day. And yeah, I guess everything else is in the application as far as the specifics. I can elaborate further if you'd wish.
Well, how many people are you expecting? And,
yeah, so I put on the application 250 for the approximate. That's on the high end. That's like, we would hope to have that many people, but I think, yeah, somewhere in the 200 range, hopefully. We'll be able to pay everyone for their time and efforts. And yeah, we're going to have 2 stages. It's going to be two food vendors, and yeah, a series of art vendors.
Great. Eric, anything to add for that?
Staff reviewed it for a temporary event permit with just some general comments from police and fire department. Staff recommends approval of the event permit. It's before you due to the expected number of attendees size.
Okay, great. Questions from the board?
Is this you've done other events? Is this the second year for this event, or is
This is actually the sixth
Sixth
time
year.
that we've done this. Yeah, we didn't
Okay.
do this event last year, but 1 or 2 years that we didn't do it during the pandemic.
Yeah, okay.
But yes, this is, usually it's my friend who organizes, but he moved away, so I'm organizing it, and it's my parents' property, so
Okay.
I'm familiar with the ins and outs, I guess. But this is my first time going through this process, so yeah, if there's anything.
And this is, Eric, they've had the event before, no issues, from the town's perspective.
Nope, no
with
issues.
that, So, great.
Further questions? No? Okay. There is a proposed motion.
I'll move to approve a temporary event permit for the Day in the Sun Spirit of Vermont Festival at Red Barn Gardens on September 28th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. There you go.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I've got Billy from Home
Okay,
Suites here.
Great.
So,
It's just go back to the Home 2 Suites liquor license application.
Billy, I'm just connecting you. You should be able to share your audio and video once you join the panels. And
Can you hear me?
there we go. Can you hear me, Billy?
Sorry.
That's okay. So I can introduce
Yeah,
this.
please.
This is it's a new liquor license. I brought this up last meeting. We thought it was renewal, was actually a new license. So typically when there's a new liquor license, the select board hears from the applicant. So the manager is with us, Billy from Home 2 Suites, and the business is requesting a first-class hotel liquor license at their hotel here in Williston. And as I understand, it would be a small shop. Then folks who stay at the hotel could purchase alcohol there. But I'll refer to Billy to give an overview.
Okay, great. Billy, how you doing tonight?
You?
Good. Can you give us a little, presentation if you could, please?
Sure. So we're a 100-room property, and we are looking to add beer and wine to our marketplace. We are looking to sell from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. All managers will be required to be certified, and any associate who works the front desk also to be able to sell. Our plan is to have a limit of 2 transactions, 2 items per transaction. And then we would obviously monitor any person who purchases alcohol. And then pretty much just function very similar to the stores throughout Vermont and just make sure that we're carding everybody to make sure that they're over 21.
Great. Questions from the board?
So this is not a bar service, but it's more like going into a store and just buying a beer, so is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Erica's staff reviewed.
Yep, staff's reviewed. No concerns from zoning, and police chief's only question was just that how to check this proper training and to check ID. So.
Okay, well, if there are no further questions, there is a proposed motion.
I move to grant a first-class hotel liquor license to Main Course Hospitality Group Incorporated, doing business as Home 2 Suites.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? The ayes have it. Okay, so it's approved.
Thanks, Billy. We'll get that approved in the portal tomorrow for you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Okay. Next, Town Hall Parking Lot Improvement Project, possible November bond. Eric?
Yeah, so I can kick things off, and Bruce is here as well to answer questions from the board. So I brought up at your last meeting, potential to have a special town meeting on Election Day in November to reconsider the Town Hall parking lot improvement expansion project. The direction from the select board was to explore any ways to possibly trim expenses in the project. So we did some work with our engineer over the last month. And I guess just to kind of reset things here for folks, this project involves improving the drainage, lighting, and the subsurface of the town hall parking lot to address efficiencies. Additional aspects of the project include expanding some parking spaces and availability of conduit from the addition of lighting for future electric vehicle charging stations. We identified this over a decade ago, and the drainage and lighting issues are a safety concern for staff and the public. So after we consulted with our engineering team on this project, it was determined the light poles could be extended by about 4 feet in height. This change would then result in the elimination of a few light poles for the project, and those poles that are there that are a little bit higher cast the light out a little bit more around the parking lot, thus making it so we wouldn't need quite as many light poles, and those are quite expensive as part of the project. So that resulted in a expense reduction for the project of about $70,000. Received the update yesterday. So it makes the bottom line cost estimate for the project about $790,000. We've allocated $200,000 in community project funds and received a $200,000 grant from the Downtown Transportation Fund for this project. That grant was received in May after town meeting day. So to round out the funding required, the bonding authority would be up to $400,000 suggested by staff. Rounded that up to 400 from 390 that would be remaining. It's a decrease in bonding authority from the up to $700,000 that was sought at town meeting earlier this year. Reminder, bonding authority is an up to amount. The final project construction costs won't be known until the project goes out to bid if we get there with the funding mechanism set up. And a project contingency is also included in the cost estimate. So I've included for you in the agenda the legal documents prepared by the town attorney that encompasses the project scope. With any bond vote, a necessity resolution outlining the scope and the necessity for a capital improvement project to seek bonding authority is prepared by the town attorney. That would be considered as part of the items for approval this evening. And also, the town attorney's prepared a ballot form for the select board to look at as well. If the board wants to proceed with the bond vote, the next item on your agenda is a special town meeting warning for November. And the reason this is being considered now in August for a potential November vote is the ballots are going to be mailed to all registered active voters, or active voters rather, by the Secretary of State's office for the general elections fall. So what they'll do is mail all those ballots out. If a town wants to have a local article on that ballot, the Secretary of State's office needs it by the end of this week. So therefore, the board is considering action this evening if it wants to be on that ballot that's mailed to all active voters in Williston to consider this question. And there's an additional motion if you move forward with this to authorize that to happen by the Secretary of State's office. So I think I'll pause there. Bruce is here as well to answer any questions on the project. So I'll pause there for the board's question.
Questions from the board?
The parking lot, I think of it, the parking lot is from like the zoning office over here, all the way around. Over here, it's from Route 2 to Route 2, essentially, correct?
It's from, essentially you're correct, the parking lot between Town Hall Annex and the National Guard is not the town of Williston's. That belongs to the state of Vermont, so that is not part of this project. It's from, the line basically runs right down the side of the Town Hall Annex building, the property line. So it's from that property line, all of this, and then down this side back to Route 2.
It also includes the police department?
Oh, yeah,
All that.
it's an expansion going back and then over toward the white garage behind the police department, both sides of that.
Just some of the concerns that people had of the cost. I just don't know if people realize how large the parking is here. That's why I asked that.
Right. And it's going.
Original bond issue was 6,500 square feet.
So the parking lot's gonna get expanded as well. So, as far as the parking lot between Town Hall Annex and the State National Guard building, I've contacted the state to see if they wanted to do anything while we're doing this project. And so far, they've said no. But I'm gonna keep pushing them to at least overlay it, pave it, so it looks decent, but it's not ours, it's not the town of Williston's.
The parking lot that we use here at Town Hall, do you think it would be used for library if the library gets the expansion over here, or the Brick Church Music Series starts back up again?
Well, it certainly gets used for the Brick Church Music Series. There's no doubt that when that was going on, this parking lot was used. If the library expands, then it would seem to me that there would be need for more parking, especially since I haven't really been following the library expansion project that much in depth. But I do know it involves taking more of the town green, or possibly doing that. So, yeah, I would say that you'd end up with using more parking over here. The thing with the library is a lot of it's used after school hours and on the weekends when school isn't in session, so I guess there's some parking there as well.
Thank you.
You know, one of Jean's things she had brought up was in fact, you know, maybe reducing some of the lighting to as a cost-saving measure. So on behalf of her, I'm going to say thank you for, you know, meeting with the engineers and you know, doing that. I think that's certainly helpful. And this is this number is a big departure from what it was, the bonding amount we were asking at town meeting day. As I said before, though, I see this as a safety issue. You know, we are a large employer. We have a lot of folks who are in and out of here every day, and townsfolk coming in to pay bills or to, you know, meet with folks in the planning office or the recreation office. And our parking lot needs to be safe for them, and so I do think this is imperative. You know, I really appreciate all the efforts to reduce the lighting, and I think that you know, kind of for me seals the deal, and I think this is a needed issue and should be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, I agree. I feel it's a public safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, put places to park and proper lighting at night.
Yep.
I know when I've gone to the Brick Church Music Series, you know, you want to have light.
Mm-hmm.
When you park, want your car to feel safe.
Yep.
What was the original bond that got voted down in March?
For up to 700,000.
700. And this is actually, it's not even going to be 460, it's going to be 400.
400.
Yeah.
400, up to 400.
I think it has good benefits to the town and to folks who will be purchasing electric vehicles in hopefully near future. It'll give a place for them as well to service the cars.
Which will not be at town expense.
Exactly.
Is this when Chapin wanted to?
Yeah, I think I emailed him.
Okay.
He's next door at the planning commission.
Okay,
He wanted
well.
to speak during this, so. Check.
Good evening. That's okay.
I already extended your gratitude for them, you know, reducing the amount of lights on the parking lot, so.
Are there questions or comments from anybody in attendance about this? Go ahead.
It's still gonna be 700,000, you just got the money from someplace else.
Drew?
So you're looking, and the original bond was for 6,500 square feet. That's,
It was a it was a misprint. That was just the addition. Yeah, that warning was
what
wrong.
the bond was for, and that was what the warning
No, you're right, but it was a misprint, it was wrong. It's more than that, it's for the whole area.
How much is it?
It's what, square footage?
How much square footage?
I don't know right off the top of my head, sir, if you want to contact my office, I'll give it to you.
Those are the type of things we should know, because that $700,000, with $6,500 works out to be over $100 per square foot. You're putting in these charging stations so they can pay for themselves?
We're not putting in charging stations, we're putting in the conduit to run the lighting, and eventually that conduit could also help to put in charging stations.
It seems like about $100 per square foot, that seems very expensive.
Are you basing that $100 per square foot figure? No, let me finish, let me finish. Are you basing that off of the misprinted area?
Say it's 7,000 square feet.
Okay,
It's in the $20,000, it's in the
You don't know what it is.
20, I do know, I just don't, I had the number, I just don't have it off the top of my
You
head.
have an estimate of it.
I was just saying that, if you'd stop and let me finish saying what I was saying, it's about 20,000 square feet. It's the whole parking lot is getting ripped up.
And that's different.
Of course, that's why I said it was
What does
wrong.
that work out per square foot? That would be 8 times 7. $56.
If you can do anything in today's market for less than $100 a square foot, then be my guest, because it's not happening.
Well, I'd like to see it happen because don't believe, from looking online and comparing different square footages, they were $20 to $30 per square foot. Places like California, which I can imagine are cheaper than Vermont. So I think you gotta take the tribute numbers.
okay.
These are numbers that are recommended by the engineer who's prepared the project estimate.
I think the gentleman's maybe, you're maybe only thinking about just the paving costs, not the conduit and the lighting and everything else. There's a lot more to it than just paving it.
It just seems, sorry for dealing with the wrong numbers that were printed and given to me
It's not
originally,
your fault.
but it still seems like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, there's no doubt.
Well, I guess we're just asking the town to just relook at it and vote on it. If the town votes no, then that's,
No, I don't deny it needs to be fixed. It just seems like it's a lot of money.
Okay. Let's make sure that we get the right numbers on the form this time. Okay.
And that was my mistake, Ted. The lawyers called me up and asked me, and I gave them the square footage of what was being added, not the whole project. So that was totally on me.
I've made worse and more public mistakes.
So we're looking just for the authority to spend up to a certain amount of money. It'll all go out to bid, and we'll get a final cost before anything happens to it. Is that correct?
You always get the final cost once you go to bid, Terry.
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, if it goes out to bid, we can't spend more than we,
If the bid comes back higher than the estimate or what we have in there for money, then it will come back to you all to say, do you want to spend the more money or not?
right.
Jabin? We're doing the, we're talking about the parking lot renovation and, yeah, and sir, did you got your voice heard and you, okay, all right. So, you're next. It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you, that my remarks this evening are from working as a planning commissioner on the energy plan for several years, and then on the Taft Corners form-based code, and looking out for energy opportunities there. And do you see a PDF in the route?
Yeah, there we go. So I'll just share that.
So I have some pictures to go with what I have to say, which is why I have, there we go. So I'd like to share comments and photos aimed to quickly bring you to an understanding of the issue as I see it, and thank you for your indulgence. Although it's regrettable that costs distract from finding solutions, let's get that out of the way. From the Clean Energy States Alliance Vermont Solar Cost Study, here is a sample of cost to do a commercial solar canopy of similar size to half of the town hall parking lot, and that's the next page. We don't need to worry about the details of this, but it comes out to costing $3 per watt for this is a very detailed analysis that was done for the state of Vermont for construction of a solar canopy commercial parking lot. At today's prices, this study was several years ago. At today's prices, I think the cost would be closer to $4 to $5 per watt. At 20 cents per kilowatt hour produced, the $23,000 of electricity produced per year would give you a payback of around 15 years. The important point, and of course after that, the electricity is free except for maintenance costs. The important point here is that adding a solar canopy is not an expense, it's an investment with a return that's greater than the expense. I, in the bottom of this page, included a smaller version of their estimate for rooftop solar commercial, which came out to, I pasted the wrong one in. It comes out to $2.53 instead of $3.01 per kilowatt. So there's about a 16% increased cost for building the canopy, the structure to support it. That's out fairly old data, but it's the hardest data I could get because it was a study exactly for Vermont for these things. The source for that information is on the top of the next page, and I will supply this information in fact, the PDF that Eric has, these links are hot or active. Why is this important to Williston? The CCRPC ECOS plan quoted in the Williston Energy Plan says Williston should add 15 to 45 gigawatt hours of solar generation to meet targets for renewable energy generation. That table is shown here. This is cut and pasted from our town plan. You see it said between 14 and 44,000 additional megawatt hours, which is 14 to 44 gigawatts. Rationale. To meet these goals, we need all the solar we can get. Preferred sites, which is a very specific term, both in Vermont PUC law and in our plan. Preferred sites include existing developed land, primarily rooftops and parking lots. We have an opportunity to capture more solar energy as part of the Town Hall parking lot project. For the past several years, the Planning Commission, in its annual review of the capital plan, has pointed out this opportunity. It is in keeping with the energy plan, with the ECOS plan, and with the state's goals. The investment will provide a financial return in addition to reducing Williston's carbon footprint. So, why does the plan you are considering moving to a bond vote not have a solar canopy component? That's my question for you. Not to answer right this minute, but that's why I'm here. Could we add a solar canopy later? And as you can tell, this basically is my presentation. I'm including the words as well as the pictures so that, and you can have this afterwards. Adding a canopy to an existing parking lot is generally very challenging. Here is what that same Clean Energy States Alliance Vermont Solar Cost Study says about that. And I won't read the whole paragraph, but I will, on the next page, I bolded the most important part. It says the majority of cost-effective and successful projects will be located at new developments or existing lots that are being reconfigured. That's because the cost of digging up a parking lot and putting infrastructure in it is high. So they're basically saying if you are not building a new parking lot or in the process of reconfiguring one, it's economically becomes difficult. In many ways it becomes difficult. And I have the source for that there. Some further excerpts from the town plan show that this opportunity is central to our energy goals. In the Section 5 land use, Pathway 5.4 says, and the bolding here is mine, establish incentives in all zoning districts for installing overhead parking lot solar energy arrays should be considered. On Chapter 6, renewable energy, our second local objective is double the amount of renewable energy generation sited in Williston. This is an ambitious goal, but it's needed to meet the goals of the state and the ECOS plan. In the pathways under that, it says 6.1, create a program to incentivize residents and businesses to install solar arrays on their roofs, over parking lots, or as appropriate as freestanding structures. 6.2, the town of Williston shall continue to lead the community by increasing its renewable energy production and battery storage portfolio of municipal buildings. So this is right up our alley, which comes back to the question, why are we not doing it? So then I supplied some reference information in researching for tonight. That first link is a project in St. Albans of similar size, and this is the Public Utility Commission's file on it. And what's interesting about reading it is you get to see all the criteria. For any system more than 50 kilowatts, there are additional criteria, and they go through, like, is it a preferred site, and it goes through all the criteria, and so it's kind of shows what we would go through if we do this. I have some other links here, and then the third one is from Encore Renewable Energy that does projects in this area and is doing the one for Global Foundries off Redmond Road. They did the solar canopies behind the Echo Center in Burlington. So I included a link to their comments about that one. On to the next page. So what exactly are we talking about with solar parking? Here are some reference projects. This is a picture from Western Massachusetts taken as I was riding. I was not driving. I was riding on the highway, and that's just a piece of a huge parking lot. And it's just to make the point that industrial scale solar canopies on parking can be done in New England and is being done, but not much in Vermont yet. Next page. This is the solar canopy that's been for quite a few years behind the Unitarian Church at the top of Church Street. I don't know if anyone's ever parked there. You would have seen this. I believe that this is under-engineered for our needs in the town hall parking lot. The lower end of that, as you can see, might be too low for a plow truck, depending on its size. The snow that might be shed off it is shed into the driving area. So to me, there's some problems with that. You'll also notice appropriately there's some cement blocks next to the posts so that nobody at least will run into the posts. Next page. So behind the Echo Center in Burlington, this is an aerial view. That's the Echo Center in the lower left, and that's the parking that Eric is circling. And that's College Street running up the top. I hope that orients you enough to see where you are. Those are the parking lots near the waterfront. Those arrays were done by Encore, and in fact, this page is from their report on it. It had many constraints, including existing underground infrastructure and truck patterns, and so it was a significant challenge. The notes on this project are in the link I have underneath it from Encore's notes on this project. Note the number of panels on the canopies compared to the number on the roof. Canopy panel space is very efficient because essentially all you're doing is putting panels at the angle you want in the place you want. When I was looking for an aerial photograph for the ones at the Echo Center, I came across this when I went to Google Earth. And I don't know if you can tell, but that's the Echo Center at the top of the picture. North is at the top on this one. It was on the left on the last one. And at the bottom there is the dirt parking lot. And just there's actually an excavator there, and you can just see the outline of where they've started to excavate for the infrastructure. And I just wanted to make that point because it's what would happen back here if we did this. And that's the kind of infrastructure that's really hard to put in after the fact. I went to Google Street View to show you something else right there. I circled, see how high the panels are there? And you can see there's a, I don't remember the name of that system where there's cross pieces to reinforce the supports. This is, being on the waterfront, it was built to withstand 105 mile-an-hour winds, and it's strongly built and very high in the air because of the other constraints. While the Unitarian Church example may be under-engineered for our needs, the Echo example is probably over-engineered for our needs. The town hall parking lot canopy might look more like this example from 125 Bridge Street in Richmond. This is a parcel that was recently revised, and I found the name, I think it's called by Buttermilk is the name of the organization in Stowe, and the engineers were Aegis Renewables out of Waitsfield. At the back of this new building, which is mixed use, they have this solar canopy over gravel parking. This is next to the community kitchen in Richmond, right next to the railroad tracks. If engineering for the town hall parking lot were to indicate that it was difficult to have a canopy close to the building because of the fire truck, fire lane access, and where the snow would slide off, if we only did it on the southern half, it would probably look like a lot like this. Looking at it from the other end, the ground slopes down and they kept it level for some reason, so it gets higher as you go down to that end. But if you stood behind the police station here looking towards the armory, it would be a structure like this on the left side where it would shed snow onto the grass that's to the south of the parking lot. One more detail is that when the Planning Commission has recommended adding solar parking to the Town Hall parking lot project, we suggested it be a demonstration project. We had 3 reasons for doing that. The first was because we don't have commercial canopies in Williston, and we wanted to have a demonstration where developers in the Taft Corners area would be able to view and see one that they could follow. The second is, as you know, Public Works develops standards for infrastructure. And so when we did the Taft Corners work, Public Works then came through with the street specification standards, and we would think it would be appropriate as a demonstration to have this project be used to develop the standards for solar parking canopies so that developers would know that their project would be approved because they followed the standards. It wouldn't be a one-of situation when a developer came in to do it. And finally, as a demonstration of the town's leadership back to 6.2 in our energy plan to lead the community by increasing its renewable energy production on, et cetera, of municipal buildings. When the original bond failed, I expected there to be time to address these questions. But with your interest in revoting the bond sooner, I can only present this perspective, which is that solar opportunity is at risk of being lost, and that's for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this kind of a use it or lose it situation if we don't, I'll ask you and Bruce, if we go ahead with the project as it is proposed now, are we able to put a solar canopy over it later? I mean, without breaking the bank?
I would say yes,
Okay.
especially along the back edge where Chapin was talking about. As far as having conduit or anything else in the ground is concerned, that's not a problem anymore. Solar panels are in the field out back. All the power that is generated by that comes to the poles out on the street. And all that line was all bored in. There was no open cutting, so it's not cutting any fresh asphalt or anything. There may be some disturbances to the asphalt that we put in, but that can all be cut just where the work is going to get done, so it's not going to be destructive to it. So I don't see any reason why it couldn't be added at a later date.
Other questions about the entire project and Chapin's ideas from the board?
I have a question for Chapin when he's back. Here's Mike. Chapin, is there I understand at the Eco Center in downtown Burlington, there's not a lot of extra space to put solar canopies, and so it makes sense to put them over your parking area. We have more space to put solar panels in Williston. Is there any reason why it's a better idea to put them over?
Yes, which is that it's already impervious surface and developed land. When you put them, when you have solar fields, you are disturbing the land, you are causing different runoff pattern. And so it's preferred to put them on brownfields, and, you know, and currently, it's just a preferred status. There are other advantages. I didn't go into this, but they shade cars in the summer. They keep snow from getting on them in the winter.
Shirley's going to be underneath that every morning.
In general, they are considered an amenity that adds to the parking experience. The poles can also have the chargers attached on them, not from the same thing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I'm a little surprised by the Bruce's answer that it wouldn't. I mean, it seems you're going to have those poles are in the middle of where the cars go. They're not at the end levered out. So I would think that it would be pretty disturbing to our
if we did it
lot to do it.
If we did it on the south end, as Bruce was saying, the poles would be just on the edge of the parking lot, and they would extend over the grass that's behind it. If we wanted to cover the whole thing, then where the double parking is, it would go down the center of that.
Okay, got it. That makes more sense. Thank you.
And to sort of answer the previous question, just my personal opinion is that if you spent the extra money to do the engineering now and put whatever additional conduit was needed in and allow for where the posts would go, then adding it later probably is not that big a deal. But as that study said, putting it into a existing parking area is generally not happening.
I can see that. Did I hear you, I was sorry, walked in a little bit late, so did I hear you say 15-year payback?
Yes.
Ooh, that's pretty long.
Yes, I think the ones in the field back here were a 12-year payback, were they? I was looking for our finance.
Hiding behind Bruce.
I think it was like a $300,000 investment, $300 and some thousand investment with they produce about $30,000 worth of electricity a year. I think the ones on the town garage have a shorter payback.
Oh, that's true.
I think this would be longer than either of those because of the infrastructure. Basically, you have to build the structure to hold it. You're not putting it on a roof or in a field. But that amount, that premium, according to that study, is about 16%, the premium of the cost of installing. And so it means your payback is 16% slower.
I guess I was just interested in the payback because I think we had a couple of things in the capital plan, like, or requests, like replacing LED lights, things like that, that had a much faster payback. So from that perspective,
right,
that would be a better investment of the money. But I understand your point on the payback.
So, what was your estimated cost to do this, Chapin?
Well, I don't want to pretend to know. That study that I showed that had a projected cost of a project of a similar size was $300,000 or something. It's in that table. Yeah, $300,000 total cost for that size project. And then just using the numbers that are in there, the payback at 20 cents a kilowatt would be about 15 years. Actually, I inflated the amounts because this is old data. But on the other hand, we can get more production per support because the panels are now denser. And so we really would need new information, updated information to make an estimate. I called the company that did the one in Richmond that I thought was the closest to what we might do. It's Aegis, is AEGIS Renewables in Waitsfield. They do a lot of projects all over New England. But I had to leave a message and I have not received a call back. I was going to ask them what that one cost, just by example.
I did, on your recommendation, I did drive over there to see that one. It does seem more scale we'll be talking about.
Yes, and that's a 128 kilowatt system, slightly larger than the one that was in the quote of the blocks, but that's probably because it's got more modern panels than were in the quote.
So I think it's important to note that the parking lot solar canopy is actually one of our, we're talking about community project fund items. This is actually one of our community project fund items we were considering in our top kind of 8 here. So we do, you had some estimates for that. I don't recall what that number was.
That was, I felt low. I put 100,000 as a placeholder, but staff hasn't anticipated it. The depth Chapin has for cost.
Yeah.
If the board wanted to pursue this project further, we'd have to get some more refined cost estimates based on the site.
The grant that we're getting from the state, does it have a time limit on it? If we don't spend it?
Yeah, I believe it's 36 months from award, and that was last May.
So if we pushed, if we investigated this issue potentially more and pushed it back, is what you're thinking, like to March?
I'm exploring the idea.
Mm-hmm.
One of the concerns that I have is, frankly, that I'm not, I want to do this kind of thing, and I think we have to for a lot of reasons that go beyond the town. But even just looking at the reasons that the town has, it's a good idea to do. My concern, though, is that voters are not going to be inclined to approve of it. And I'm not saying that as a conclusion, I'm saying that as an issue in my head. We had the town budget go down last time, we had the Brick Church fire suppression go down, we had this parking lot issue go down. And, I'm not sure that the people in town are going to be amenable to spending on things like this right now.
I do think there's some people who would support the project because it included this, because there's a lot of enthusiasm for being more green in the town, and it is part of the town plan. And if it's presented right, it is a money maker in the long run. It is an investment in the short run. So it's not like we're spending money to get nothing. We're spending money to make money. And if we did the engineering, we would have the cost estimate that would let us know what the payback is, because you can know what the payback is per kilowatt of the system. And so what we need to know is the cost of building the system.
But do we know how much the cost of engineering it would be?
I don't know, but I know it's in the $20,000 or $30,000 range to have anything, to have a start at it. Bruce, you may know.
It's at least 30,000.
Yeah.
It's a $300,000 cost you're looking at. Engineering is, 30,000 is probably low, it's 15 to 20% anymore.
So it's not insignificant. And of course, there is a shortcut, which is if we can contact the people that did the one in Richmond, and if it's fairly close, adapting that. If we cut it back to just half the parking lot and have a reference project that ballparks it.
Sure, but also the other question I have is, do we know how much added cost it would be if we just did the parking lot renovation now and came back and did this as a separate project? It's the research that you showed says that it pays to do it all at once, but we don't have numbers associated with that. Yeah.
That's true with anything. If you're doing something from scratch, rather than come back and do something later on, it's cheaper to do it right up front. I'm not saying there won't be added cost. All I'm saying is that it can be done after.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe that it's not an impossible task.
The conduit they're running for, obviously the lights and the potential future of electric vehicles, is that same conduit, or would be different conduit that need to be run for the solar canopy?
I don't want people to get, put the conduit on the ground is cheap.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to get hung up on conduit.
Right.
Because with the technologies today, you don't have do work in our right of way, we tell them they can't open cut unless they prove to us that they have no other recourse. Everything's got to be bored in anymore, so, just, don't get too hung up on that.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I would love to do it. I, right now, I think we're out of runway for getting this on the ballot, and I think this is an important, the parking lot, it's an important project, and I think it's important we keep the costs down as much as possible, so I love the idea. We could come back when we talk about the ARPA funds, consider doing work for the canopy at least, but we won't be digging up the parking lot for a while, so, we could have time to add it to the project, perhaps, but I'm uncomfortable stopping the parking lot program in order to investigate and adding potentially $300,000 to the project. I don't think that's feasible in the environment we're in today. But I would be inclined to having that as a known part of the future so that we don't preclude it from happening in the future when we put the parking lot in.
I agree, and also voter fatigue, right now. I don't think now's the time to be asking for more money.
Yeah, I agree. I feel heartened that, Bruce, you're saying, that like we could put it on the back end of the lot in the future, and that, it's not going to be, a huge issue, to dig up the parking lot later if we're going to do it or something. So I support, anything that furthers our energy plan. I see, taking care of our parking lot for our town spaces as meeting a lot of our other town plan kind of issues right now as well. And so I would like to see, this get passed and get taken care of. And then in the future, I would love us to add the solar canopy to meet those other goals. But for today.
I think that's right.
I have one caveat, which is don't take any of my numbers as being
Yeah.
I'm doing my best as a layperson
Yeah.
and being honest and giving you
Yeah.
references, but
And
I think you did a great job, Chapin.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, Chapin. It's super informative.
this has not been in vain.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So is there other discussion on the project as a whole, or if not, there would be a motion? Right?
I'll move to approve the necessity resolution and ballot form for the town hall parking lot improvement and expansion project bond as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Shouldn't that be modified to indicate the presentation shows 660,000, which is, or 460,000, that's only 400,000?
Yep, correct. Yeah, I've had the attorney modify the resolution, so that would be a good amendment, I suggest.
So that will be what is presented, so,
The 400,000 is what was
Yeah.
presented, yeah.
okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Okay. So, next special town meeting warning.
Yep, now that you've approved the resolution, we have a official warning to then warn the special town meeting on November 5th. This will also include a public information hearing the night before, Monday, November 4th. I've reserved the school auditorium if the board had approved that this evening. So there'll be a public information hearing, and then this will appear on the ballot that is mailed to all active registered voters for election day. And the only difference from what was included in your packet is to change the article wording to signify 400,000 instead of 460,000 for the bonding authority question.
Questions for Eric? If not, there is a proposed motion.
Move to approve the warning for a special town meeting to be held on November 5th, 2024, with the corrections in the numbers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Brings us up to general election local articles ballot mailing.
Yes, so this is a procedural item that you've approved those two business items. The reminder, the Secretary of State's office will be mailing all active, non-challenged voters a general election ballot for our election in November. To include local items on the ballot that's mailed by the state, the select board is required to pass a motion. The local items to be included are the parking lot bond article that you just approved and the election of justices of the peace. To authorize the inclusion of these local ballot items on the ballots that are mailed by the state, there is a suggested motion.
Questions for Eric? One of those exciting nuts and bolts moments that we go through. So if there are no questions, there is a proposed motion.
I'll move to approve having the local article under consideration at the special town meeting on November 5th and the election of justices of the peace included on the general election ballot that will be mailed to all active/non-challenged voters by the Vermont Secretary of State's office.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. The ayes have it. Okay. That brings us up to the next item, Black Lives Matter flag at Town Hall. Crystal Lee, why don't you come on up? This was, I thought it was time that we revisited this issue. Not that I mean, people may or may not recall that I was actually the person that made the motion to put the flag up. But I don't know that flags stay up for, perpetuity. And also, there might be another message that we might be able to send out. Anyway, so I wanted to start a discussion on that. And Crystal Lee, you've had conversation with your partnership and other folks. And what input do you have?
Yeah, so I put together something to share on behalf of the partnership that I'll read, and then I can share a little bit of some ideas that came out of our conversations.
Okay, actually, can you identify the partnership for everybody?
Sure, so the Williston Racial Equity Partnership is who I was.
Yeah, thanks.
So,
Mike picking you up because that's pretty, is she, can they hear her?
Is that better? Oh, the next. You can tell I'm really good at this, huh? There we go. I'm normally on TV. All right. So it says, the majority of the Williston Racial Equity Partnership members highly recommend that the town of Williston continues to fly the Black Lives Matter flag as a constant reminder of the work yet to be done. While there is not full consensus on the Black Lives Matter flag itself, there is consensus that the message of Williston being committed to ending structural, institutional, and systemic racism must remain at the forefront of our work. A flag is merely performative if the actions and messaging behind the flag are not followed through. There's much work to be done. We can see on a daily basis the countless examples of racism, discrimination, hatred, and divide. Turning our backs to the work at this point in time could send a very strong message that the town of Williston is not committed to the values that were adopted, the efforts put in place by the Community Justice Center and the Williston Racial Equity Partnership, not to mention the commitment made on behalf of the Williston Police Department by Chief Foley, which can be found on the Williston Police Department website. The Williston Racial Equity Partnership would like to advocate for adopting a Town of Williston DEI and anti-racism plan that would detail how the town plans to address the issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. We would also like to see a town plan that outlines various places where throughout the community, the commitments to being anti-racist could be displayed as reminders throughout the town. Many people have shared that they would like to see a stronger message being displayed, such as a flag that says "End Racism," which would encompass a wider range of racism that bears its ugly truth. We cannot deny that racism exists and that as a town we have a great amount of work to do. There are many avenues that we could take. However, removing the flag before a plan of action has been taken would be a detriment to the work we have started and the work that is so desperately calling for the attention and action that's needed. So with that being said, as I stated, there's not full consensus from the Racial Equity Partnership about the Black Lives Matter flag. The majority of folks have asked that I represent that they would like to see the flag still be displayed. However, there's a very strong message that has come through that a flag that says "End Racism" would be far more impactful as we think about the other pieces of racism that are true within our communities. And really the biggest piece is that we want our work to be more than a flag itself. And so we really want to re-ask for the commitment to look at what we're doing as a town to educate, to look at policy and procedure around hiring practices, around conversations that are taking place, all of those pieces, and to ask for a plan of action to be put into place that we can actually kind of look at what we're doing, where we've been, how far we need to go. So that's kind of the place of that. And in addition to that, the partnership does fall underneath right now the Community Justice Center's kind of advisement. And as a Community Justice Center, we have signed on, along with the other 18 Community Justice Centers in the state, to standing behind being anti-racist. And so I think it goes hand in hand with developing a plan of action that would continue to support that work.
Questions and comments and discussion from the board?
I love the idea of sort of syncing up actions, visible actions that we can share and feel like we're making progress with taking the flag down, if and when we decide to do that, rather than taking it down and then sort of out of sync. Because I do think that I've sensed less passion around this issue, and taking a flag down without other visible means of moving forward seems like we're feeding into the less passion as opposed to more passion. So I love the idea of sort of aligning actions like that. I hadn't thought of it that way. That's my thought.
I think as a town too, right now, we're developing our new town plan. We have soon, I know that we're going to be looking at our town policies and reviewing those. And so I do feel like we are at a good kind of pivot point to reassess kind of, where we are moving forward as a town and our DEI practices and our anti-racism policies. And I agree. I think, symbolism without action is ineffective. But the flag right now, we still see in this country that racism is pervasive, and so I would not want us to take it down until we have action plans in place for, how we are, going beyond that and what we are as a town going to do to fight racism. So.
I agree with all that. My concern is I don't know if concern might even be too strong, but my thought is that the slogan Black Lives Matter. I made the motion to put the flag up. I was in favor of it, and I still am. But the slogan itself is inherently limiting, and you have to know the context of it, or give me a minute, or it doesn't make sense. And I've just thought, as a matter of communication, that's there are people who I don't agree with on a lot of things that they bring forward, but they did take that and use it as a kind of a wedge, I suppose, to argue against it. The more important concern that I have, though, is in the last 2 years, there's been a huge influx of anti-Asian and anti-Asian violence, particularly in New York City. My kids are Chinese, and I would like something that includes them. We have a national candidate who is of mixed race and is of Indian descent, in part. My thought was I think the end racism flag would be a great message, and I agree with all the steps that need to be taken, but I don't know that it has to be linked up with the flag as a kind of a sine qua non. We can't do that without the other stuff. So those are my thoughts.
Well, I think you're kind of agreeing with what Greta and I were saying. If you're talking about replacing the flag with something you feel is stronger, that goes along with what I was saying. I just don't want to take it down and then 6 months later we do another thing.
Yeah, no,
But replacing the flag is sort of different than taking it down, which in my head, I thought I meant take it down, and nothing goes up, so
Yeah,
that's,
no, I wasn't.
that's fair.
Did you raise your hand? Yeah.
Could just,
Do you want, Cindy, you want to come up?
please.
Thank you. I've written quite a few times because it bothers me tremendously in my town. It's fallen on deaf ears as far as looking at this issue a different way.
It doesn't project. The microphone only
Sorry, keep,
Okay, sorry,
just,
doesn't work. I find that people that think about this in a different way are not heard. I've written numerous letters to the select board. The only person I've heard from is Mike. Thank you. I feel like this whole issue and how it's being handled and how it has been handled from the get-go, this flag's been up how many years? 3, 4? It doesn't make sense to me. If you're trying to eliminate racism, the more you speak about it and make an issue of it, the more issue it is. We're all the same. It shouldn't matter. We shouldn't be picking apart color. And as we all know, BLM was a movement that was brought upon us to divide us. It really was. It wasn't to help anybody. It wasn't to help the Black people. It wasn't here to help any marginalized. They didn't do anything to help people of whether they're Black, white, purple. They bought their mansions. What did they put into the programs for Black people in inner cities where their Black people are killing? It didn't do anything other than cause divide and marginalize Blacks from whites. There shouldn't be a color differential in people. And I feel like the flag, the Black Lives Matter flag in particular, based on what it means and who brought it forth and how it was brought forth, it makes me feel like Black people need their own flag, and they should be upset about that, because why doesn't our American flag cover them just like it covers everybody else? The American flag is equality for everybody in this country, no matter what. And having a separate flag for one denomination, marginalizing everybody else, makes that an inconsequence of what our American flag stands for. It's not right. It's not right. The only flags that should be on that pole are the American flag and our state flag. That's it. That's it. And I find it hypocritical that most people that make a big issue about racism and having this BLM flag up are white people. I'm sick of the divide. It's the more we talk about racism and make it an issue, the more an issue it becomes. Listen to Morgan Freeman, listen to all the Black people that feel that way about what has been brought in as a meaning of this flag. It marginalizes people. It labels people. Shouldn't be there. That's all I have to say.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ed Blastic from Williston. Yeah, I can echo some of that, what I'm hearing from people. People are afraid to speak up because they'll be labeled as racists or something. But the long story short, you know, when I look at the history of the last 3.5 years, what happened in the election of 2020, where it was all politicized, where people burned down city centers and got away with it, really, under a lot of different guises. But I want to keep it short. You go to Google, you look up Black Lives Matter. It's defined in where everybody looks as a decentralized political and social movement. Short version. There's a lot of organizations under that umbrella. Also in 2020, the BLM movement expanded its influence in politics by forming political action committees. To me, that's money and influence, which is fine, you can do that, but you continue to think that this is just an innocent movement is incorrect. But the bottom line is, I don't see it as a unity thing anymore. I just see it as a political thing. For example, when they came out in support of Hamas and the Palestinian causes after the October 7th incidents. That just kind of lit the fuse on my saying, what is going on with this group? But anyways, what I would like to see is unity. One flag, like the Vermont motto says, freedom and unity. One flag, people have to, come together. We have plenty of effort going into the month set aside for Black History, for Juneteenth. There's a lot of things going on out there that are trying to, get people to come together and understand these things. I just think the flag's kind of, it's made its point. And we should try to get back to, one flag, one country, and maybe once we get past this election season, it'd be nice to think that we could do it, but you can see it ramping up. Again, the division, it's black, white, old, young, rich, poor. We're not going to necessarily solve it here with my few minutes, but you can understand. So, freedom and unity works for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or input from people? Come on.
Well, I'm Marcy Cass, and I'm not prepared, I wasn't prepared to say something, but I just feel compelled to say that the last two speakers, I just want to go on record as saying that I think it should stay flying. And I think it's like, if you don't think that we need it, I think that's saying a lot. That there's a phrase that when Black Lives Matter, then all lives will matter. So it's there for a reason. Saying that we don't need it and that it's causing divisiveness is I think showing a real lack of understanding of the reality of racism in this country. And I think it depends on where you get your information, on how informed you are. And I think that, and just sort of, I don't know if it's parenthetically that I'm a Jewish person who is very disturbed about what's happening to the Palestinians. And so to say that the Black Lives Matter are that much more wrong because they're taking up Palestinian cause, I think is missing another point. And I'm sorry that I'm kind of rambling, but I just want to say that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this country, and I think that to say that the American flag should, that would be great if that was the case, but it's not yet. And so I think especially for a white community, predominantly white community like Williston, it's that much more important to have the flag to just be a symbol that we get. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? So there's no requirement that we take any action at all.
Question maybe?
Sure.
Do we, you mentioned, Mr. Lee, about and I know you didn't say restarting the work or whatever, but would it be good for us to have sort of well, first of all, like a timeline to consider this again when these other things are in line? Or, I'm sure this is on our work plan, Eric, but like, do we have a time the town is working on in this area, one of which could be removing or replacing the flag?
Yeah, so I know we have on the work plan right now policy review work and creating kind of an equity rubric lens as we look through town policies moving ahead. But certainly the board wants to, I don't think we have specifically the flag on that work plan, but that plan can always be amended and certainly take your direction on how you want to prioritize different policy items here.
Well, we have having the CJC in, that's been sort of on our to-do list for a while now. I mean, could this be, I'm not sure who I should be talking to. I think I should talk to you. Is this something that they could come, we could have them come and chat with us about? Like, because it seemed like there were some really specific things, like making sure our hiring practices are in line, making sure, I don't know, the policies, whatever it is. If I can't articulate it to people, clearly it could be my fault, but it could be that it's just not spelled out as clearly as we could have it.
Sure.
But if we had a work plan of things that these are, and they don't have to be, this is going to be done by next Tuesday, but it should be, this is going to be done over the next year, whatever.
Yeah, so I think if we're thinking about kind of an equity plan, an equity audit type plan, that should come through the manager's office, and certainly collaborate with staff here to help look at that.
I was thinking along those lines, and as we're reviewing policy and things like that, it would be helpful to have a DEI committee to help us review that process, to make recommendations. We have an energy committee. We DEI committee feels like a logical step in helping us inform our policy. Whether or not that was a permanent committee or, as we go through this process, but would be something to consider. But I do think it's imperative, and I do think this should be at the top of our work plan, because it impacts every area of work we are doing as a town, and I think that's showcased tonight.
And I think that's really what the partnership is asking for as well, right, is to come up with that plan. And certainly the partnership has a lot of ideas that we can re-meet together and share out with all of you. We're not prepared to do that this evening because we were just talking about the issue of the flag. Mm-hmm. And we recognize, that we have slowed down in our work due to my extreme illness and being out in our staffing challenges. But the group has reformed itself again and are ready to commit to re-engaging. And so really the ask, in addition to sharing the opinion about the flag, is to reinvigorate the work and to make some recommendations. And there's certainly a lot of things that we can bring forward as part of those recommendations from the partnership, but also in tandem with the work that the CJCs are doing across the state to address these issues.
Yeah, and I think there's kind of two buckets as well as we think about community work, community outreach work. Then there's an internal facing with the town staff and human resources level work as well. So I'm just trying to be mindful of, there's a lot of different layers here to think about. But it's all good. It's all good things. Just kind of thinking how to compartmentalize it a bit and how to tackle it. So we can certainly collaborate and do some research on models and approaches out there as well. That might be a next step here to kind of come up with a framework and kind of create a plan with these different aspects to kind of identify the different aspects and then kind of have a plan how to work through it.
I mean, I would think, I know that the flag has become a lightning rod and people are on both sides, and regardless of which side you are on the issue of the flag, the fact is it is divisive, but I don't know that it would be divisive to say we want to have anti-racism in our policies. That wouldn't be divisive. So, sort of it would be an added benefit to get this from being a symbol to being action, that we as a whole town can agree on the right actions to take. That might help because people have legitimate personal opinions.
personal thing. I don't feel anybody is necessarily wrong. We just see things differently. Some people do. Being a white male, it's hard for me to understand the issue. I thank the Racial Equity Committee for bringing this to our attention, because otherwise it wouldn't be part of my attention, being who I am. I think it's sad that there's people are racist, you know. Some people are maybe racist without meaning to be also.
So Eric, what are you thinking about timeline-ish wise? Could we revisit this in some way?
Yeah, certainly, I'd look for direction from the select board, kind of just helps with the work plan that we have, just trying to prioritize, where to put tasks. If the board wanted to come back and have a discussion here the next couple months, certainly would prioritize some of that work and time in the manager's office. And
I'd be okay if you needed, clearly you've got to talk to, the partnership too, so maybe we could just have it in the manager's report, like what you're thinking about timeline for next meeting. I really don't know if this is, and I would rely on the partnership to tell us, do they need a month? Do they need a year, right? I don't really want to tell them what they need, so I would be interested in, I think some of the work is urgent, but I don't think it should be rushed either, so maybe we could just in the next manager's report have some feedback from the partnership on when they could be ready.
yeah, why don't suggestion just I think we can certainly do that, and just maybe give me a little time to collaborate with staff as well, and just kind of talk about what that could look like. And just kind of I'm just trying to get kind of a general framework, and I don't feel prepared to articulate it all off the cuff.
Right, and Greta may have some great ideas, because you guys went to that whole training, right? So if you want to.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned from other municipalities too, and we've had a network of partners, and I know that they're trying to reinvigorate that network a little bit. And I don't know whether there's folks from that cohort we can reach out to as well, just kind of get some guidance on how they started. Because I remember from that cohort we were in, a lot of it was okay. How do we get started? How's kind of a good roadmap to create with different steps. So
Right.
I think we can kind of revisit that and maybe just kind of think about what that outline looks like, and then think about how to implement that outline.
If nothing else in 18 months is that there's an awful lot of things going on, and it's really easy. You take your eye off it once, and it's gone for months. And so I don't know how. I haven't learned quite yet how to make sure we keep our eyes focused on the important stuff.
I have, if you can figure that out, and not only about the select board, but, my job, that'd be great.
That's your problem.
And I'm the only one who has it.
It's a good point, and I think we can collaborate and just think about some, at least have kind of I could provide you an initial report, just kind of at the next meeting, just kind of where we're starting to get our heads around it. Just kind of revisit that.
Did you have another comment you wanted to make, a quick comment? Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I go back to when the slide was put, and how many times come back and do this, only to and this is this timeline on 5, and that led to something like this should not go on. It does marginalize, it does do that. Anyone who doubts that or thinks it's not true, I'm sorry, but American flag.
Okay.
Continue to think that. I just feel like people need to be serious about doing something. How other people feel about this, and that by taking the flag away is not taking away people's marginalization, how they're felt about in Williston or anywhere else, because the American flag is there to do that.
I'm going to actually.
I just feel like it just needs to be
Yep.
figured out, and stop pushing it down the road.
thank you. I don't mean to stop you, but we gotta move on, so, all right. All right, no, thank you. So we're gonna come back to this. All right. And is the next meeting enough time, or do you need a couple of months?
I think, Gene's request, at least think about just a general update of the manager's report, kind of think about timelines and collaboration with the racial equity partnership. And I can carve out some time just to kind of revisit just systems thinking on this.
Just specific to the flag, I think it's important that we continue to fly this flag to let folks within our community, within the state, know that we are actively working on being an anti-racist community. And I think that that is a very apparent need right now within our community.
Okay, thank you. So with that, you have your marching orders?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Can you, thank you for coming in, and can you thank your partnership in the CJC?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Remaining on the agenda is the community projects funds and the manager's report, and then I thought that we would take a break at 8, but I'm wondering if how long it's going to take to get those other things done. Maybe we can just keep muscling through and go on to the next agenda item. Is that satisfactory for people? Okay, all right. So community projects fund projects.
Yeah, and before we jump into this, I meant to segue to Bruce for an update on the Industrial Avenue pedestrian bridge. Thanks for waiting. I think it's a good segue into this as well. If the chair would entertain, have Bruce provide an update. It's in the manager's report, but just on this infrastructure challenge, I'll say, that's presented itself. I'll get that photo.
Okay, as you all know, we've had to close the Industrial Ave pedestrian bridge. I think Eric has a picture.
Yeah.
Put up here.
Somewhere in my email.
It was discovered while the Bridge 17, which is the vehicle bridge on Industrial Ave, was being inspected by the state, which gets done semi-annually. They noticed some deterioration going on the pedestrian bridge and called and said that we should close the bridge. And my first thought was, what are you talking about? It's a pedestrian bridge. I mean, it can't be that bad. So I spoke to the gentleman from the state, and he even agreed that the bridge wasn't in imminent collapse mode. It wasn't going to fall down tomorrow, but that we should get it addressed and looked at. So we called Hoyle Tanner and Associates, John Olin, structural engineer, and had him come out and take a look at it with us. And their recommendation, sure enough, was to close the bridge as a cautionary. Being a professional engineer, that's, you know, they're going to err on the side of caution. Once again, the bridge isn't going to collapse tomorrow. What they're worried about is like, and we're not going to have this happen either, but let's just say for some reason there was a large gathering of people on the bridge. That could be an issue. What's happened is you can see that bottom cord is rusting through, and most of that is caused, there's two things, most of that is caused from salt. Well, we don't salt pedestrian bridges or sidewalks, but we do salt Industrial Ave. And this bridge is right next to the Industrial Ave bridge. So over the years, the salt lying on the top of this cord has deteriorated it and opened up these spots. The other thing is, I'm told now that this was the wrong bridge for that location. It should have never been a rusting style bridge that it is. It should have been a bridge that had a coating on it, paint or something. So that didn't help this situation. Although this bridge is 1999, it's been there a while. It should have been there a lot longer as well. So that's the issue, and because of that bottom chord and where those rust spots are, that is right in the center of the bridge on the side, the south side, which is the side toward Industrial Ave. And it's critical because it is the center of the bridge, and it's ended up being a weak spot. So the recommendation is close the bridge. We followed that recommendation, close the bridge. We're looking at trying to get some kind of pedestrian access over the actual vehicle bridge itself. That bridge is 30 feet wide. We're looking at narrowing that down to 2 11-foot lanes and then having a 4-foot access that people can walk across that bridge to keep that still open. We're just ordered some plastic barricades to put out there that are a lot lighter. Obviously, we don't want to put out concrete barriers on the bridge deck that weigh 4,000 pounds apiece and
Solve the problem.
put 24,000 pounds on that. So, and the other side to this, so the engineer did contact the company that this bridge came from originally, not in business anymore, but sold to a reputable. Contact is the name of the company. To replace that bridge, just to get the bridge, $330,000 unpainted and $370,000 painted, which is the suggestion. And I would certainly, as much as I'd hate to say have something else out there that has to be painted over time, would say that's the right solution. Once again, that's just for the bridge. That's not the removal of this bridge, placing of the other bridge. So we're easily at that $500,000 mark, if not even $600,000 to replace that bridge. This is actually a good picture because what you see underneath of there is another bridge that is supporting a sewer line for Industrial Avenue. That also needs attention. And I did put out an RFP this year to get that cleaned and painted and got no responses. So if worse comes to worse, when we go to replace this bridge, we'll just put that in the project. They've got to clean that other one up while that other bridge is off. That is a steel structure under there that was painted, so, you know, some scaling and things like that, but it doesn't have the rust through. Once again, that bridge up top, that steel that was made out of is the kind of steel that's made to rust. You see it in the guardrails sometimes, the rusting guardrails or whatever. Those are made to actually rust. And this application is just too close to where all that salt's used. And it's just deteriorated it. And the problem is, because of those holes in the side and in the top, there aren't as many in the bottom of the cord, but we don't know what's going on in that cord either, now that salt may have gotten in there, just how strong or how thick that steel is. So that's it. It's a matter of we will apply for bridge and culvert money, which I think is up to $200,000. You know, we'll look for grants, those kind of things, but it's going to be, quite honestly, hard because you don't usually get a lot of grants for maintenance kind of work. And that's what they'll say this is. So.
Bruce, total project estimate's about $500,000 with labor included. The structure is about 370.
I said yes, 370, and then it's going to be, it's easily 500 to even 600,000, Eric. I honestly don't know, but just the bridge itself, today's cost, $370,000. There's actually a little bit of good news because we have good plans and everything for this bridge. It literally is lifting this bridge off and putting a new one on. The abutments are still good, so we don't have to do all that kind of work. So there are some saving graces. But, you know, it's unfortunate.
Bruce, is this the one that's like in the dip, so it's north of where North Brownell comes in? Is that where?
North of where?
North Brownell, where?
Yes.
Yeah,
You come out of North Brownell and turn right,
right there.
go right past the motorcycle or the boat
Yeah.
place, right in
Is
the
this the only
dip.
one we have that's a bridge that's right next to the road like that?
I'm sorry?
Is this the only kind of bridge like this we have in town?
Oh, no, it's the only one that's near another bridge like that, for sure. We have a much longer walking bridge that goes over Allen Brook,
Sure, yeah, but no, I meant alongside a road like that.
but not alongside the road. And, you know, as far as being told that's the wrong kind of bridge for that location, there's nothing wrong with that kind of bridge. It's just because of that location. It's just the salt that, you know, gets off of Industrial Ave, and if you ever drive Industrial Ave in the wintertime, you'll see that that road is pretty bare. And some of that is our fault. We are on Avenue A, the trucks are coming out of there, they're all dispersing up that road, whether they're salting or not, there's still salt coming off those trucks. That road's probably one of the more salted roads in the town of Williston, just because of that.
And I know there's sidewalk to the north of that bridge, in the south of it, because it goes to Rosenthal Park?
Yep.
Where the sidewalk goes?
Yep.
It goes down, yes, it goes down the north side of Industrial Avenue and crosses over to Rosenthal Park. And it goes up to Two-Way and Mountain View Industrial Ave intersection. And this is the part, you know, where we are actually right now have the grants to look at putting sidewalk down the rest of Industrial Ave.
So Jeff Fears used to talk about his road, this is my bridge. And,
Right?
I
So,
saw your name carved into it.
I won't tell you what it says.
that sidewalk is well used, and of course, people are ignoring the signs right now, they're walking across there. And the option is to walk in the road where there's more hazard than it is crossing that bridge, to be quite honest. So, you know, I worry about the pedestrian traffic, it's on the road.
Well, that's why I'm saying we're looking at that and say we're gonna do it for sure, but we don't have any choice. If we have a structural engineer saying we should close this bridge, we can't keep that bridge open.
There's no option.
If you tell me to as a select board, I'll keep it open. You know,
No.
I know you wouldn't, I know I'm being.
I want that on record as
I
no.
don't think our insurance company would like that.
But what we're looking at is, that will be barricaded all the way across from start to finish. We've already ordered signs that say, roadway narrows, bridge narrows. Gonna put up 25-mile-per-hour advisory speed signs to slow people down. The speed limit's only 35 anyway. It's a huge truck traffic bridge.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt. But there's no other way to keep traffic going over that
No.
if we want to keep the pedestrian
Absolutely.
bridge, short of maybe, haven't looked into this and I don't want to miss it. I mean, maybe we could get a Bailey Bridge from the state that would go right over top of this one,
Just like the one we had on.
like we
Monday
had on,
Road.
yeah, but those aren't free either, and, so there might be other solutions. I'm not crazy about trying to put people out there either, Terry, but it might be the only way we have to do it. We would put up Jersey concrete barriers off the path out onto the road, so that the only place that would have these plastic-approved barriers would be on the straight section, so the people coming down either way to the bridge, it would be the concrete barriers,
Yeah.
and then just the straight section would have
Yeah, it makes sense.
the plastic ones.
No place to put a rope and swing across either.
We couldn't maintain this bridge in the wintertime now. I would not drive a truck over.
Oh, yeah.
And that is how we do plow that bridge in the wintertime, is with a pickup truck.
Yep.
I want to update the board that regardless tonight, but you're discussing the projects list. I put out a hard copy for you. I know you don't want to keep adding ideas here, but this just emerged the last couple of weeks, so just to keep in mind as you're thinking about funds and projects, that too many projects, not enough funds, unfortunately.
I'm assuming you would still place the Talcott Road culvert repair above this, like in terms of,
I don't know that I would, to be honest with you.
that's good information.
Only because the Talcott Road, they're there, they need to be replaced. They're not failed.
Yeah,
This is failed.
right.
We have, I mean, Terry, like he said, it's his bridge, he knows probably, I've watched a motorcycle go across this bridge. When we've had water break out there and close the road, and didn't want to wait, so he decided he'd go down the path and over the bridge. We have had some calls from pedestrians about what are we supposed to do. So we are getting concerns about this bridge.
Remind me
To be
the cost.
totally honest with you, I would tell you that just both the projects should be done. So,
Remind me the cost of the Talcott Road culverts, the estimate we had. It was comparable, right?
wasn't it 700?
I think 500 to 700.
Yeah, something.
Was
So it was comparable. I mean,
It
I'm
was
not,
1.4, 1.5 to actually replace them.
yeah,
And then to line them was half that cost, so
okay.
it's 600,000 to 700,000, I think, is what we were talking about.
We maybe some grant money for that.
Oh, yeah, I put in for grant money for that one this year, we did not get it. But that's the other side of it, when it comes to that bridge and culvert money, they're probably only gonna fund us one of the two anyway. I'll put in for both of them, but we
Right.
probably wouldn't get both of them.
So, I mean, I personally, if, you know, Bruce is saying this would take precedence, I would feel comfortable, like, replacing we have here, as we all, voted as stormwater, or the culvert being the number one. I would feel comfortable popping in the Industrial Avenue Bridge, but that's me personally.
Well, that kind of comes back to my thinking when I was going through this, is that I think before we make decisions on this list, I would really appreciate everybody who's now a finalist go back and maybe review this a little bit, because I know, like, we have county parks as a, this is, we thought we'd come up with a number out of a multiple list of projects, or community forest was kind of the same thing. I'm curious what the food shelf intends to do with their money. Because $100,000 was their ask, but that's their whole operating budget for a year. So I'm just interested in what they are thinking, So I don't know how this really look like, but I'd be interested either as a group or as a subcommittee. I'd be happy to work on it with somebody if you want to do it with me, but to just have the folks who are asking for this money come in and just, kind of like we got with the solar panel today, the solar canopy. Just one more time through, what are you thinking? How would you prioritize? What would you do? Rather than me just, right now, even though we've been looking at this for a year, and I have a lot of pieces of paper with descriptions of projects, I would really like to hear maybe from the people who are asking for the money what. Yeah.
So I shared with Eric yesterday when I received this list to, the community food shelf has quite a cash balance available as well for looking at it. And things like, I don't think the reappraisal, the land records digitization.
Say that twice.
Yeah. You probably don't know that there's a fund, and $4 out of every recording fee goes into a fund just for that, and it has about $65,000. So.
Right, so to that effect, maybe these numbers are correct, and maybe both people who put these in have great ideas and really important work they want to do with the money. I just don't know what it is, and I would like that information before I made a final decision.
Yeah.
Especially since some of these we're going to make a decision, well, you asked for, 50 to $1 million. We have to come up with a number, so that was just my thought.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I chatted with Ted before the meeting, and you're getting to a good point now of kind of narrowing that very long list we had down. So, if the board, if there's anything on this list you wanted to eliminate at this point, or if you wanted to task me with, that updated report, and I could work with those groups and come back with refined numbers on things. I know the approved projects, plan to have a discussion about public safety planning and leading to an impact fee. No more staff work on that. Village Park Pavilion, we had an estimate of 100,000. It's more like 106 to 110, so just a tiny bit more. But
Those are the ones that we already said those are good.
Yeah. You had approved the projects, but wanted to wait on the funding allocations till that similar approach. The only one that was approved with the money was the TIF study, because we had a quote with that amount.
But they were on our list of.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were
Mm-hmm.
these ones. And so if Bruce wants to swap out one for the other, Bruce, I called somebody, and I think I called Aaron or somebody, and said like, what's Bruce's number one? And that's what I voted for. So, you know, if you're changing your number one, then that would be fine.
Yeah.
Well, if I could, so let me go down and take a look at those twin culverts now that winter's over and see how they fared through the winter. And then I would give you a better answer on, but the bridge has failed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Once again, we can spend all that money.
I agree. I think too for the county, the country parks and the Catamount Forest, like, you know, even if they could come and just say, you know, we're thinking of giving you a lump sum, but like, what would your priority? You gave us a list of these things, like if we gave you 50,000 or 75,000, what would you use that on of these things that you've said you want to do?
excellent ideas. Do we,
Yeah, I agree.
what format would that take though? And actually, we're coming up on 9 o'clock, so if we could.
Well, I would love to actually be able to have a conversation with
Yeah.
folks rather than just more numbers, because I feel like
Yeah.
we just keep getting reports, but
Right.
I know we've already spent so much time, we have so much on our plate. I don't know if the whole board wants to.
We have time.
Part of those, you know, with the parks work, those are generated from committees, Conservation Commission and Catamount Committee. So, you know, the chairs of those committees could be invited in to present with their committee's position. Those committees could have added to their agenda coming up at a close by meeting to revisit the request, then have the chair come in and give a verbal report to the board and answer questions of their position.
Would it make sense to have a significant chunk of a select board meeting dedicated to this, not just those 2 chairs coming in, but somebody from the food shelf and, I don't know who's gonna speak on behalf of the Allenbrook Bridge, but.
Sitting in the room.
I was gonna say. Well, and I think, I mean, I don't want to put too big of a time crunch on it, but obviously we all know we're coming up on budget season. So if that could happen like by October, possibly.
Yeah, I think
Before that.
I think
Before, I mean, ideally before that, but like by then at the latest, just because I don't want to encroach on all the work you all have to do. I mean, I'm sure you're doing it anyway already, but.
I plan at your next meeting to give you a fiscal year 26 budget overview and budget pressures part of that overview, because there's a number of things to be thinking about right now, and not that you want to take any of this money towards operating again or capital again, but just to be aware of, you know, those pressures that existed last spring are compounding, including health insurance and other items right now. So no surprise to the board, but I want to articulate that and also think about use of fund balance moving forward, and have to think about a lot of these elements moving ahead here.
Geez, first school is just barely opening, Greta, and
So-
we're back to budget season already.
I actually don't know what our next meeting's agenda would look like at this point, but if we could carve out a significant amount of time and try to get this organized. But, you know, we obviously need to keep moving on this. It has been a long time, but we don't actually have a deadline on it.
Yeah, the accounting change.
But if we could possibly get this, if not this next meeting, the one after that, with a significant number of people presenting, unless the board wants to do it individually or a subcommittee.
No, I was offering if the board wasn't interested, but it sounds like people are interested. But I am thinking if some of these have to go to committees, that getting it onto a committee agenda before we get here might be.
Yeah.
We
so
may be able to
2 months.
We may be able to chunk it a little bit too. There may be, you know, some updates that could happen on some projects one meeting, and then some the next meeting.
Okay.
From what I hear, we all kind of agree that we're allocating money to public safety and public works, and the department heads, their needs change all the time. So it's up to them to determine if it's changed.
So do we have consensus that we're gonna have basically a ARPA talent show?
But really, Eric, I mean, what I'm picturing in my head is, you know, 5 to 7 minutes for each idea, not a half-hour presentation for one or anything. So.
Yeah, I think some of these, especially just build it or buy it projects are
Yeah.
shorter than some others. So.
But we should bring cards with numbers on them so we can. Okay, so if
That's
that's,
helpful.
if we have consensus on
Yeah.
that, let's move on to managers' reports. And Bruce, thank you.
Thank you,
for-
Bruce. Someday you're gonna come in here and say, I need no money, everything is great shape.
Yeah, right.
There was a lot to this manager's written report. I'll just highlight a couple items quickly. Quarterly reports included. New is the policy goals and priorities report update the board had asked for. I'm going to do that to align with each quarterly report, but it won't be a look back to the quarter. It'll just be a present day recanting of kind of where we are with those projects on your work plan. I'm working to get a Dropbox set up. I think you asked for that, Greta, just tied to each document for project. So I'll have that set up by the time of the next one, if not sooner. Shirley included the finance reports through April. They're working to close FY24 right now. I just want to highlight the local option tax report. We got the last report for the fourth quarter of FY24. We're just under $4 million for that. We had budgeted $3.6 million that fiscal year, so good variance. You recall with the budget, we increased the budgeted amount based on prior year's experience. So our budget for FY25 is $4.1 million. So I think we're in good shape to meet that and more right size it the last couple of years. But we're trying to eliminate these big variance swings was our approach last budget. So
Did we outlook $4 million when we came up with that number?
with
When we came up with the FY25 number, we must have estimated the FY24 number.
yeah, we thought it would be at least $300,000 to $400,000 over the budgeted amount.
So $4 million is what we expected for FY24,
We
but over budget?
yeah, we had budgeted 3.6, but as we recalibrated mid-year, we felt we were going to be close to 4 million.
Okay, so we don't have an extra $4 million. I mean,
Oh, no.
We don't have $400,000 to fix the bridge. Darn
No,
it.
no. Well, we will have over that revenue was 400,000 over the revenue for the fiscal year in the local option tax receipts. But it's all going to factor into kind of the fund balance amount that Shirley's working on as well.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was above the fund balance that we had forecasted for FY24 or about what we had forecasted for
I
FY24.
think Shirley, we had factored in maybe growth of like 300,000 or so projections. So there might be a little bit of a variance there.
A little bit better?
Not enough to buy a bridge though, unfortunately.
Not a bridge bigger.
But we'll be watching that closely and just trying to project that revenue source. You know, the theme I'm going to bring to you at your next meeting is revenue for FY26 to be thinking about that a lot. I just want to publicly recognize Captain Prescott Nato, who will soon be Chief Nato for the Heinsberg Fire Department. Just thank him for nearly 20 years of service here as a volunteer and 14 as a career member of our fire department. He'll be wrapping up August 30th, being sworn in as Heinsberg's fire chief shortly after. So I just want to publicly thank him for all his many hours and years of hard work and dedication to Williston.
Yeah, he'll be missed.
Is there,
Great attitude, great.
is there a reception for him sometime?
I'll let the board know. I know there's a lot moving the next couple of weeks with the recruit academy wrapping up as well. But if there is something planned, I'll let the board know.
And maybe let the school know too. I know he was really involved at the schools. So,
Okay. No, absolutely.
I'm sure they will want to know.
And the only other thing I'll mention is in September, at the second meeting in September, we have a planned update for the library schematic design project. The trustees will be updated on that as well the night before. We'll have some kind of pictures forming on that project. There'll be a comprehensive update coming up for the board. Got other things to do this evening, so I'll pause there, but there's a lot in the written report if you have any follow-up questions.
Questions for Eric? If not, other business.
I'll pass around. We noticed the board amended the investment policy over a year ago, and we forgot to have you sign it when it was updated. So this is just it was official. It was in the minutes and everything. Just for the record, we should get that signed. Other business. There is a number of catering permits, and I can run through the list quickly, and you may want to consider it as a study here. So there's on August 30th, Smuggler's Knot Distillery is going to do a table for tasting and sales at the La Quinta lobby, a manufacturer's special events permit. It's essentially what they do at their store. We just don't have any concerns with that. We're going to do that on August 30th, September 14th, and October 12th. On September 1st, there's a bat mitzvah at the Isham Family Barn with 802 cocktails. Frost Beer to provide alcohol service at Catamount Cyclocross. That was a TEP you approved at your last meeting, so it's just a follow-up to that. A wedding reception at the Isham Family Barn on September 21st with Pizzeria Verta out of Burlington. Foam Brewers on September 28th for the Red Barn Gardens Music Festival temporary event you approved earlier in this agenda. And then October 19th, Isham Family Barn Babes Bar wedding reception. No issues with staff on any of these catering and event permits coming up.
Is there a motion?
Is there a number of these that the town starts getting uncomfortable with?
For a location or a?
Especially, no, just like townwide, is there anything number that you start getting nervous about being able to cover emergency services or anything?
No, not necessarily with the scope of these, kind of parties, celebrations, a couple accompanying temporary events. They tend to come in waves like this in the summer and fall. But,
fall is a big deal.
If there was, I'd share with the board if there was any sense of concern over volume, but we typically have not had concerns with overconsumption at events or anything like that. So I'm pleased with the case.
Move approval of all of the requests.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
Do you have an abstention?
Oh. Right. You abstain. Any
You abstained from
abstentions?
2, 4, and 7.
A lot of them tonight.
That's a heck of an eye for detail you got there, Chief.
I tell you, it's nothing like 14 hours in the car.
Okay, so any other business? Eric,
Oh, sorry.
is that it? Okay. All right. Final thoughts on items from this meeting? Circling back? No? Okay. And there is a need for an executive session, and there is a proposed motion.
I'll move to find that premature public knowledge regarding a labor relations agreement with employees would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage, and further move that we enter executive session to discuss a labor relations agreement with employees and the evaluation of the town manager under Title I, Sections 313A1B and Title I, Sections 313A3 of the Vermont statutes, and invite town manager Eric Wells to join both discussions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session.